And we are now zooming into YouTube. Here we go.
I see what you did there.
Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen here with Alex King and Daniel Mangena. It is Tuesday, December the 17th, 2019, 4 p.m. New York time, and wherever you are in the world, thanks for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And the only unhappy thing is that Alex can't dance today. Her unicorn headset isn't letting her dance, but Daniel is taking care of that. He's doing the dancing for the both of you. So thank you, Daniel,
That
for
was
stepping
actually
in.
that was the plan. That was exactly what was on my mind. If Alex wants to let the whole dancing thing go because of a little technical hitch,
Wow.
well, I'll pick up the mantle because I'm just that kind of guy. So
Coming in hot at 4 p.m. Okay.
well, it's actually only 2 p.m. for me. So coming to you from the past as you stand in the future.
That's very good. I like that.
Yeah, I like it.
Take it away, Daniel. Do you want to start running the show? You're doing a good job. You know that.
Oh no, I don't.
We all say that. We're like, no, Walt, you're not. No.
Heavy is the head that wears the headset. So
that's why I have a light headset. It's easier that way. So anyway, we actually do have a topic today that Alex came up with, and it has to do with some pretty esoteric stuff. So if you have any kind of resistance to alternatives to, say, traditional religion, or if you don't like challenges to your spiritual beliefs, this is probably not the best episode for you to listen to. But if you have at least a little bit of an open mind, this should be fascinating. I have to admit, it's not a question I had ever contemplated before. The question is, what did you plan on before you came into this life? What was your intention? I mean, did you have any choices that you made, any options that you picked from? And to be honest, I don't remember. So I mean, I don't feel particularly skilled
Prepared?
in answering this question. I mean, Alex, do you remember? It was your question. Do you have any recollection?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I feel like basically the person you are is the soul contracts that you made before you got here. So I feel like in my young 30s right now, that I've come to the conclusion that the things I wanted to experience were being kind, being patient. Let's see what else. Oh, not holding on to toxic people. That's
yummy.
a big one. Yep. And be true to yourself no matter what.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I'm going to get a little bit of a different answer from Daniel, because Daniel has already expressed the opinion on a past show that he's not a big fan about soul contracts. So it's going to be kind of an interesting thing. I mean, Dan, you've had 24 hours to think about this. Have you given it any thought? And do you have anything to share on the topic?
I've had 24 hours to salivate at the idea to
Ooh.
for an entire episode, because I do believe in soul contracts. I don't believe that people should be wimps and surrender their experience to them.
That actually dovetails nicely with my belief on it, because I don't really know whether I had any soul contracts coming in. I mean, Linda Armstrong tells me that I did. I'll take her word for it. But from my perspective, I kind of feel like I would have just come here saying, okay, let's find out what happens. I don't need to pre-pave this. Let's just go. Let's just dive in. This is the leading edge, right? It's kind of like it's kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to attract something into my life, but first I'm going to perseverate about it. and that's not like a winning plan as far as I can tell.
Right.
Figuring out, okay, I'm going to get really worried about what it is I'm going to do in life, and I'm going to have to make sure that everything works out just the way I have in mind right now in my pre-birth space, because otherwise I'll be violating my contract. I can't. That's not a good way to come into life, I don't think. But that's just my perspective.
I don't think it's that, because at the end of the day, you're coming here with free will, so you make these preconceived notions of what life's going to be like on this side, but you also have your choices of whether you want to follow, which path you want to follow.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So why do you need the contract?
And that was the first question that came to me too.
Look,
I'm just
I've got two core reflections on reality that for
mm,
me decimate either the existence of this thing we call soul contracts
mm,
as people preach them commonly,
mm,
or the necessity for them, or even the idea that people should be surrendering their free will to them. The first one, which I think is my domino, big silver bullet, is this: infinite possibilities. The second that something starts to constrict infinite possibilities, it automatically writes itself off as not
mm.
being, because we live in a universe of infinite possibilities. So the second anyone, so I've got someone that really annoys me, and I don't care that she's famous, Tosha Silva. I've read like a couple of things of hers that my friend's obsessed with and keeps putting in front of me. I'm like, this is poppycock. Do you know why it's poppycock? It's poppycock because it constricts infinite possibilities. I don't believe that anyone's right or wrong, but she's wrong.
I'm glad you clarified that.
I don't believe anyone is right or wrong, but she's wrong because of the infinite possibility question. I had a really interesting conversation. Sorry, I'm really passionate about this. So I might
Mhm.
No
I had a
kidding.
really interesting conversation with my friend Guy. We're having some dinner. Me and my other half, and him and his other half. We're both black and we're Russians, so it was an interesting dinner. Yeah, and basically, like we were talking about absolutism, and that the one, well, there are two paradoxes that I think exist in the universe. One, that the only thing God can't do is be less than itself, and also that absolutism constricts infinite possibility, but there must be an infinite possibility where there is absolutism. Otherwise, there's no absolutism, or otherwise, there's no infinite possibility. But the fact of the matter is that the second that someone's saying that it has to be this way, or it has to be that way, you're denying the truth of reality, which is that it's infinite, which is a fact. So
Mhm.
when someone says, well, you know, I've got these contracts that I decided on before I incarnated, therefore this is what has to happen, you've just constricted infinite possibility. And then I no longer have time for what you have to say. Is on that topic, you may have great things to say about cake recipes or even really cool chess moves, but on infinite, on this topic, I shut off. It's a long I'm going to take a pause and give you guys the floor before I go into the other one later on. But that's my initial domino stance on
I'm curious about the additional chess moves, but anyway, we'll put that one aside for the
I'm
moment.
curious about the cake recipes. I heard cake.
But I have to say, I kind of lean the way that you're describing it, Dan, and I'll take it a step further. We live in the now.
Mm,
Okay, contracts in the physical world play an important role in terms of things like, okay, I want to buy a house, or I want to rent a room, or you know, something along that line. It works well for physical exchanges of goods and services and so forth.
mhm,
But the idea of a contract in the spiritual realm, it almost seems to be contradicted by the idea of now, because all you ever have is now. From everything we've been taught about how the real spiritual world actually is, there's only now. There's no present, there's no future, there's no past. It's just now. There's always
mhm.
just now. So how can you have a contract is the question I have, because
it.
there's no later.
This is the thing. My friend Mira Kelly, she's a Hay House author, really really great soul, amazing woman. She wrote a book called Beyond Past Lives, and that's the first
Mhm.
time that past lives actually started to make sense within the concept of the now. Because what she basically shows is that yeah, they're past, but they're not really past. They're just alternate because they're all happening in the now. So
Oh, okay.
at this level of density, we have a collective agreement of time, but that collective agreement of time only exists for us if we subscribe to it. And that's why people can manifest instantly. That's why people can jump timelines, because they've broken certain connections to that agreement of time. But everything happening alternately doesn't mean that we can't affect things between timelines, because the energy, I don't remember exactly the way she explained it, but it's the same way. Like, so when she does regression healings, I've done some of her work, and for one of my group programs, she does some work as well. But when you affect something in this timeline, in this lifetime, can affect your alternate lifetimes because there's an energetic connection through your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually have that going back and forth. But again, I'm with you. It being tied to a future when the future doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to juggle that one. It's kind of hard to make sense out of that one.
I'd rather juggle cakes than put them in my mouth.
I think that's what we all like to do with cake.
So how do you resolve this, Alex? Because you definitely like the idea of, you know, the soul contract, something that you made an agreement about or made an intention about before you came here.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're taking this other tack that, well, that's in the future, so it doesn't really apply. What do you think? How does that work?
I feel like everyone's allowed to believe what they want to believe. No one's wrong and no one's right.
Unless you're Tasha Silver. Sorry, Tasha. Walt's like, I don't want to get sued. This is a weak opinion, by the way. So if you want to sue someone, sue me. Just saying.
That email address is
right. You can sue me, but 0% of 0 is still 0. So good luck with that.
It's a one of those topics that just kind of bends your mind as you try to play with it. You know, because all bets are off. It's like you say, Alex. I mean, you know, you can believe what you want to believe.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And that will form your reality at the end of the day.
And it does form reality, but it also makes it kind of difficult to have a conversation. Because if your assumptions are different from my assumptions, how do we...
But isn't that what makes a great podcast, is different opinions?
Well, yeah, it keeps the listeners coming back.
Yeah.
But how do you actually turn it into something that, you know, makes it a clear communication? That's the thing I'm wondering about.
Well, discussions don't have to be a clear communication. No one has to agree on one, you know, said thing.
Do you know what, Walt? Maybe I can be a little bridge between this now, because I actually have a little bit of Alex and a little bit of everyone else. Reason being is that I do believe that the soul does have desires at the point of incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't believe that they're contractual obligations that people have to be little wimps and surrender to.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is this: that assumes the infallibility of the soul. However, if the soul was an omniscient entity that knew everything, then why would it need to come and have an experience in the first place? It would already know everything, which means that it's not infallible and therefore is open to inputs that we can give in this incarnation. And so, as I manifest here as me, born, you know, not too long ago, at a soul level, there may have been some desires to experience different things.
That's what I'm saying.
I was speaking to someone a little while ago about, we're talking about suffering. I can't remember who I was speaking to, but he was like, children that are born with like terminal illness. Was I talking to you, Walt?
I don't remember. It could be.
Children born with terminal illnesses are some of the most advanced souls ever, because they've come to have a very challenging experience and often leave a beautiful imprint in the world afterwards, right? So I get that, but here's the thing. It doesn't negate choice. I don't care what your contract is. I don't care what your agreement is, what your desire is. It doesn't negate choice. You are still responsible, because what I've witnessed, and the reason why I think I'm a bit sensitive about this, because I've witnessed people say, well, I've got to stay with him. It's my soul contract.
But how do you know? So how do you just live free and do what you want? Like, how do you know you're within your soul contract or not? You don't remember.
There are ways to access. I mean, I can access Akashic records. It's one of the things. One of my gifts that I've practiced and learned is being able to access Akashic records. So I can go in and see what's mine and what's not. But it doesn't negate choice, because at this level of consciousness, we still do have something new to add. Because if we didn't have something new to add, then we wouldn't be here for the reason of having an experience, because we'd already know it at a soul level and therefore wouldn't have to come and experience it. So
Agreed.
that which I have experienced in this incarnation gives me something to add to the cake recipe, right? It gives me something to throw in the pot. And when that goes into the pot, it can change the game completely. Think about all of those times when your opinion of a person, place, thing, or situation is completely shifted based on one piece of information, no matter how small. Like the whole desire, the whole contract, the whole calling in of what the soul had can be shifted by one conversation, by one smile, by one experience. So we have to be, because we are in the now, we're moving now to now. And every single one of those nows, we're given the opportunity to completely re-know everything that we thought, even at a soul level.
Well, I'm
And
certainly on board with you with what you're saying about how we always have choice, no matter what we did before. The choice still exists, and it doesn't go away. I mean, unless we choose to take it away from ourselves. But even then, that's still our choice. Choice is what's driving the whole thing, and I agree with that. I think that that's essentially true. I think it's also true that I don't know. I don't think it really matters whether there were contracts before. I think one of the reasons people get worked up about the question of whether there are soul contracts and what role they play is because they're having trouble reconciling certain things going on in their lives. So a soul contract is a nice, easy way to reconcile it.
or to run away from responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like people who use soul contracts as excuses for their personality are the same type of people who use their astrological signs as an excuse for their personalities. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, I'm a little bitchy. I'm a Gemini. What do you want from me? Like,
You're a turd.
yeah, exactly. It's like, no, that's leaving your door closed to change. Like you're saying, I'm not going to change because that's who I am. Says who?
Complaints about astrological interpretation can be sent to Alex at LOA today.
I just picked a random sign. I wasn't saying anything about Gemini. So
Unless you're Gemini, in which I'm saying everything. But I mean, look, this whole thing, it's like, even down to archetypes. So like I do a lot of archetypes in my work. I talk a lot about archetypes and using archetypes to your advantage, but I'm also very clear that you're not held a slave to your archetype. It's just where you can find the most flow, right? So even down to like wealth dynamics, my wealth dynamics profile is predominantly there that of a creator. That doesn't mean that I can't create wealth and abundance through other ways that are not creator led, but it means I'm going to have the most flow doing it through my creator type. So even if we want to give a little bit more credence to the contract stuff, it may just be a more flowing way of experiencing life based on that desire, which is not always going to be expansive. Alex, you're blessed. You've got some really cool, expansive things you want. But because we're in an infinite universe, there are going to be strands of your consciousness playing out the opposite of that. There's going to be if you think about every single experience that we're witnessing, agreeable and disagreeable is another strand of consciousness playing out another variable of infinity. And because we are all connected at root to a central source, there's a strand of us that's playing at every single one of those possibilities as well. And so there's a part of me that is a Gemini turd. There's a part of me that's surrendering their complete creative responsibility to soul contracts. But then there's me right here and now choosing to not allow myself to be a slave to something that I haven't consciously desired to experience.
Okay.
Touche. I like it.
I can go with that. I do have one question about something that you said. You were talking, and I'm probably going to say this wrong compared to the way you said it, so if I do, forgive me. But something along the lines of when we are in the now and we're doing our stuff in the now. How'd you say it? I can't remember exactly what you said.
It'll come.
It'll come.
We'll find it.
Well, I'll put that one aside and I'll come back to it.
Well, you can finish the rest of the sentence and maybe it will make sense.
Well, that's the problem. What I have right now doesn't make sense to me, so I'm trying to.
It was a question. That's why.
You know how it is. It's one of those things. You had a thought. It started to go. You started to turn into this whole thing, and then you kind of lost the thread of it, and you're trying to pull the thread back, and all you get is thread. You don't actually get the thought anymore.
Yeah.
Or a Gemini on the other end, which is
well, yeah. That could also be problematic.
I was just going to say an unraveled sweater, but you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
we'll leave Gemini's out of it. But
yeah,
I think the whole soul thing. I mean, I didn't even really accept. I think about 14, 15 months ago, I didn't even accept this whole soul story. I didn't accept it. The reason why I didn't accept it is because when we start moving outside of the five senses and start moving into pure energy, everything loses polarity and returns back to singularity. Mm-hmm. And I didn't see the sense in having another layer of polarity en route to singularity, where we're separate souls. It's like where you just return to soul, right? But over time, studying, learning, my dear friend David Strauss is like, he's like a teacher on Mind Valley, on like soul's purpose and stuff like that. And he broke it down to me and stuff. And more of my work with yoga started talking about the different energetic bodies that we experience, that we have, and so on and so forth. So I did start to understand that there are different levels of us that operating at different densities, still at polarity. I think I kind of just shrunk the polarity down here. It's like, no, everything is singularity. But none of it, just my thing is just this, like none of it loses choice. And the soul doesn't know everything. Otherwise, it wouldn't need to come and have an experience, because it would.
Right.
You just said the magic words.
Mm-hmm.
You said the magic words that made the whole question come back to me the way I had it before.
Oh, brilliant.
Good.
So, and don't ask me to connect it, because I can't connect it to what you just said, but somehow it just spurred it in my mind. So anyway, you made a reference to the idea that, okay, once we come here to do something we hadn't done before, to build something we haven't built before, and then once we've done it, or if we'd already done it, we wouldn't have a reason to come here. Mm-hmm. And that's the one I want to take issue with, because I'm not sure that's true.
I didn't say that.
Okay, then I misquoted you, and I apologize. Maybe you should clarify what you said, so I'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
I don't remember saying any of that.
Oh, okay. Then I'll just take it all back.
We do repeat experiences.
I gotta go. Y'all are too much. I can't.
We do repeat experiences, deja vus. You have things that are imprinted that you just know, things that are just in your knowing, things that come naturally, relationships that flow, connecting back with soul family, all that sort of stuff. So I believe we do repeat those experiences, but I do believe that, and because we're stepping into infinite possibilities, right? There are situations where we don't, and there are situations that we do, because everything exists in the infinite primordial gloop of infinite possibility. Mm-hmm. So actually, maybe you just went to a timeline where I did say that and came back again. And
I was going to say that.
But here, what we've been waiting for, you all. And maybe that's why you forgot for a second. You had to pop back to the other timeline and get.
Well, now we have a new explanation for why people have memory problems. It's because they're time shifting and they can't keep track of which timeline.
Yeah, those aren't brain farts. No.
They're time farts.
Well, that sounds like the foundation for a pilot on a new TV episode, but
time farts.
But definitely, I mean, if anyone wants a different take on cross lives and the idea of the soul within the confines of the now and infinite possibility and everything happening now, then I'd really recommend my friend Mira's book, Mira Kelly, Beyond Past Lives. It's sold like 18 million copies. Wayne Dyer wrote the foreword. It's a really, really great book.
All right. Well, there's an authoritative source. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
I also wanted to add in another reason why we often like to come back. Sometimes we like to come back to do something because we just enjoy doing it. It's kind of like a skier who just likes to keep skiing. You know, they've been down the mountain once. It's not like they're done. Mm-hmm. You know, get back on that lift, climb. Well, you're not a skier.
Nope.
Not once,
not never. I don't do snow.
But if you're a skier, I mean, I've talked to enough skiers I to find out there's really not enough skiing to be done.
I went on a skiing trip, my first ski trip a couple of years ago in Les Deux Alpes in France with some friends. And they were all snowboarders and skiers. As soon as we arrived, like they were like, "Can we go and ski now? Yeah. Let's go and ski now." I was like, "Okay."
I'll be in the cabin with the cocoa and the marshmallows.
I did, and I was in the hot tub and enjoying the sea, and it was lovely. And then I went on the baby slopes for a couple of days and had fun while they were committing suicide, going down.
Right?
I went on the ski lift up, and then I took the same ski lift down. I went up and enjoyed the scenery, got some good Instagram, we love you. And then I came down again. In the ski lift, all the way to the bottom. because that's safe. Um, but yeah. Anyway, skiing is fun and also death-defying. My soul also did not come to ski.
Apparently not.
But I think like I think the depth of love that I have for teaching definitely for me informs that it's been done before. Like I just think there's a level of familiarity, the way that information just sits with me and then just comes out with such flow. I think it's impossible that I haven't done it before. Like it's just too familiar to be the first time it's been done.
Yeah, that's a great example because when you have something like that, that you just keep coming back to, it's got to be something that you have a lot of experience with. Otherwise, it wouldn't have that impact on you. You know, very very rarely I think do we run into something that's completely brand new that we've never experienced before in this or any other lifetime and say, "Whoa, I gotta do that again." Usually, it's like, "Oh, geez, I don't know if I can handle that."
But then infinite possibilities that is happening also, and that's
Right.
possible.
mind-bogglingness of infinite possibilities comes in, and why I just can't get down with some people that constrict it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's so easy. Well, actually, I think everything that we do, in one sense, constricts the infinite possibility because that's the nature of making a choice. For that moment in time, I'm choosing this instead of that. I've just restricted that. You know, doesn't mean that the next moment I can't swap it around. It just means that for that moment, I restricted it to this. So we're always restricting choice.
But that's in the now. In the now, everything collapses, and once it collapses into
Exactly.
its form, it's the now. But the beautiful thing is that the nows move so quickly that they don't sit long enough for us to even think about us having held it in place because we're already on to the next piece of creation. We
Right.
are infinitely creating at such rapid pace that by the time we've thought about what we created, we're already creating something else with that new thought. That which we've created is already in the past. That's why it's nonsensical to get caught up even in what we've created. It's better just to enjoy it and move on to the game of creating something else. And that's when I feel for me, screen, life became so much more fun and playful because losing this losing the importance behind the actual creation itself and just enjoying the experience of it and then moving on to the next experience and then choosing what do I want to create now and then going creation to creation versus like story to story.
I love the way you described that. And as you were describing that, I also realized that it kind of as a seed within that is a description about why people end up focusing on the past a lot. Because I mean, the way you kind of described it, it almost sounded like this blur of activity that's passing through our now at all times, and people can become overcome. You know, there's just too much input, too much to deal with, and on those situations, in those cases, in those scenarios, I can see where it becomes easier to look on the past because the past doesn't change, at least not from that viewpoint. The past just keeps remaining what it is, and so it creates a sort of a point of stability in the midst of this chaos of living in the now. Because the now can be pretty chaotic. It can also be really cool.
But is it the now that's chaotic or is it the stories that we have around the now? Because the now just is.
Well, the moment you're telling a story, you're no longer in the now, I suppose, in one sense.
What? Was that Eckhart or was that Walt up in this? What? In the now today. We should say LOA now.
Ooh.
And as soon as I heard that, it was yesterday.
I mean, the life, it becomes a lot more challenging to take life so seriously the second that you realize, the second you thought about whether it's serious or not, it's not even life anymore. It's just a faded memory. The power of which only serves in the now if we carry it back into the now. And even that's a choice.
It's an interesting thing how if you are constantly making choice, you're in the now, you're staying in the now, and you're not deviating. The moment that we get off of choice, and start getting into anything else except choice is the moment we're no longer in the now.
But here's a really cool thing is that the brain is programmed to create on our behalf, but we give it a blueprint that doesn't serve and then we complain about life versus giving it a blueprint to do the creation subconsciously so that we don't have to stay on top of it all the time. And we can just enjoy the play of it because a part of our mind that we don't have to consciously be on top of is sending out the blueprint for us. That's changing the autopilot. So when we set the autopilot up to create, kindness. What were some of the other things that you wanted? Kindness, patience,
Not holding on to toxic people and being true to yourself.
and being true to yourself. You set that up as your blueprint, leave the mind to do its thing, and just do that creating, and then enjoy being a unicorn, enjoy cakes, enjoy delicious food that your beloved's made for you, and just enjoy that rather than being caught up with. It doesn't have to be what we're caught up doing. We can just be caught up with the enjoyment of the experience. I think that's one of the beauties of the mind, but also one of the dangers, because if there's a defunct sort of blueprint going on there, then what's being created isn't so bueno.
I think it's interesting too that as you were describing that little chaotic bit there, the dog started to go chaotic. So it's kind of a equivalent thing.
Yeah, there's someone at my door. That's what happens. The doorbell rings, the alarms go off. You know.
Oh, that's the much more mundane explanation. I like mine a whole lot better. But no, I think there's some good stuff going on in what you're describing there. The now is a tough thing to talk about in a sense. Because I mean, the moment that you're talking about it in the past. The moment that you're interacting with it, you're thinking about it in the past. The moment that you're focused on the now is just experience. No time to process.
Right.
And the moment that you leave that is the moment you're no longer in the now. So, raises an interesting question: how do you stay in the now if you're never going to process any of it?
Really cool thing is that Beyond Intention really came. One of the things that made Beyond Intention is getting some structure around losing the structure so that we can get into the now. Because I read The Power of Now, but I can't totally, and I was like, this is really great philosophy, but how do you actually do it?
Yeah, right.
Like, great ideas, dude. Love it. But it's like, when you're in the present moment, then everything is lovely. La la la. I was like, that's really good, but how do you get there? Just be. Yeah, but there's lots of stuff. Just be.
Yeah.
It's like really great philosophy, even down to like there was something else that someone was talking about the other day. I was like, yeah, that's really great, but we're humans and there's all of this stuff. So
Exactly.
then Beyond Intention became the model to navigate all of the stuff and come back to a space of nowness so that you can make the choices to create your new outcomes. And it's really coming back to the now. I found after, I don't know, 11, 12 years of really digging into this whole now thing, is it's just letting go of the stories of the past and letting go of the attachment to the future. The second that you peel beyond those, you can be now.
By the way, Steve Rowell, who is a former co-host and
Hey,
good friend
Steve!
of LOA Today, is tuned in on the live stream and sharing a few comments of his own. I wanted to reproduce them here in our dialogue. He says, choice is key. Choice is yours, and the outcomes you create are always yours and only yours. I love playing with my reality, he says, and then he gives us 3 happy faces. And then he says, I'm liking this episode and I'm loving the banter. So thank you, Steve. And feel free to drop in and actually, join us on the platform sometime. You still have the Zoom contacts. So, just drop in and talk to us.
Mr. Steve.
Yeah, but good stuff. And he's right. It is about the choice. That's what you were basically focusing on earlier, Daniel, how important that choice is and the role that choice plays. We often give up choice. Why do we give up choice so often? Why are we wanting to put choice aside in order to do all the other stuff that we do? Because we know how important choice is. You would think we would keep sticking with choice, and yet we don't. How come?
In this consciousness, we're not, but there is one where we are.
And the theme of the day is brought to you by Daniel.
The lazy choice is the easy choice. We're trained, the general agreements of how the world works, at least in Western societies, we're trained to be lazy worker bees.
This is true. Yeah.
We're not trained to use our mind. And those that do use their mind are called dangerous. So the general collective agreements that we sit on are training for lazy thinking, and lazy thought quality is not really conducive to having the responsibility of actually choosing what you want. Why?
But it is conducive. It is conducive to something, though, because you're right. That you described it nicely. Lazy thought quality. It's conducive. We go back to it so often. So there's got to be something in it for us. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep going back to it.
Mm. Mm.
And I have to say, that's something I bring up practically every show in one form or another. Why is it that we just keep making all these choices we don't like? We're so good at it.
Playing out the blueprint,
I
playing
guess
out.
so.
But the fact of the matter is I don't really care what your blueprint was. You have the opportunity to write a new blueprint now.
Mm-hmm.
And that choice of responsibility is yours. Are you going to do it or not? And for me, what I found, particularly in my work, is that people don't want to because it requires work.
Yep.
It requires work.
Well, it takes effort to overcome that negative momentum we've been building up all this time. I mean, that momentum is still there. It's not like it's going away just because I instantly snap my fingers. So it's going to take a little work to say, okay, I'm going to focus on what I prefer. It takes some time to do that.
But look who the most famous people are in this sort of work. They're the ones that say, oh, manifest your love in 30 days, visualizing them. And then buy my next program where I'll tell you what to do when you visualize them. Mastermind, where we're really going to visualize them. And then didn't visualize hard enough. Sorry.
Facts, man, facts. Oh, I've seen so many.
Well, you could just do the work.
Right.
I did a Facebook Live on, what day is it? Yesterday. We actually spoke about shortcuts, and I was given a very apt example by Gus on this. So basically, I'm at my friends and up in the mountains, and I wanted to go on a walk. I wanted to go down to the beach, and it's not far. It's about a 20-minute walk, and it's a lovely, lovely walk. But as I came out of the house, I realized that it would require walking up a steep hill in order to go down the steep hill to go to the exit and then cross the road and then go to the beach. Lovely views, great. I was like, this looks like it could be a shortcut.
It wasn't.
It was not a shortcut. It took me into the golf course. I couldn't get out of the golf course. Had to go the way around. Had to cross a really dangerous highway. Then realized I could go under. Nearly got ran over by golf carts. Was in the dark. And it was like all because I didn't want to walk up a steep hill for about 3 minutes.
So somehow the steep hill sounds like the better option right now.
Now hindsight being 2020.
which is what I spoke about on the video, which is like, okay, guys, here's the example, here's the lesson for you through my pain of being lost and nearly dying at times, especially under the sweltering heat, because it's like the deserty bit. It's like, look at the hill, just climb it.
Mm-hmm.
Steve is pointing out the thing is most people are not making their own choices; they're letting others make their choices for them. In other words, it's lazy. So I guess that's Steve's obvious answer to my obvious question. You know, why do we keep making the wrong choices, making the choices we don't like? And it's because we're letting other people make our choices for us. That's true. That happens an awful lot.
We haven't stepped up our thought quality to
facts.
the quality that we have. The responsibility is still there. The responsibility doesn't shift.
Never.
You know, those that believe in the pearly gates, you're going to get to the pearly gates or what have you. Good old St. Pete's going to be like, all right, mate, how you doing? You're like, well, want to get in. But, Bob and Sally, they're responsible. It wasn't me. It was your choice.
Yeah.
Poor Bob and Sally, they get blamed for everything.
Every time.
I know. Yeah. It's terrible. But the good thing is, of course, that once we take on the path of being responsible, of saying, okay, we're going to choose deliberately rather than letting others choose for us. We're going to choose what we like rather than constantly going back by programming to what we don't like. The moment we start taking that path, things can start to improve. The tricky part at that point, that's where the 30-day stuff comes in. The tricky part is actually sticking to it for those 30 days. Because the one thing that the 30-day promoters can count on is that 99 out of 100 customers will not do the full 30 days. They'll probably give up after 2 or 3.
If they even start day one.
If they even start, right.
It's really funny. I got one of my programs, and yesterday I sat down and I contacted every single person that's registered for the program because I was just cross-checking. I was seeing who's actually been doing the work. People who don't show up for the lives and don't do the replays. And I was watching, and I was looking, and I was like, some people haven't been on a single live for months and they don't watch any of the replays. And it was really fascinating hearing the reasons why people hadn't done it, if they even bothered to respond. Because some people well, I've been called out. I'm just gonna hide behind the email, and then
Yeah.
like, to be honest, mate, it doesn't bother me one way or the other. You've already paid me, so
Like, I get paid whether you show up or not.
I've been paid. But I bring a level of integrity where I genuinely do want people to win. I genuinely want them to do. But you do get those people that they'll buy stuff. I've had to refund a couple of people that wanted to, especially when I used to do more of the private coaching. They didn't want to change. They wanted just to say, well, I spent this much money and it still didn't work because they didn't show up. Right? They were looking for somewhere to pass the buck to. Maybe they ran excuses in their current situation. And it's like, okay, well, if I do this one, no punch back. Not me, mate. You and Sally can go over there. Not in this timeline, my friend.
What's really interesting is how clearly perfect the batting average on that is 0, 0, 0. It always fails. 100% perfect failure rate.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Facts.
But the fact of the matter is that some people do, on some level of consciousness and desire, to have that failure. They don't want to win. And I think the sad reality is that every single one of us, the reality is that every single one of us at some level of consciousness are playing out an experience where we don't want to win. Right here, right now, what do you choose? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Are you ready to do something different? If that's the case, then guess what? You have the choice to do so now. Would it take work? Yes. And if you're not ready to do that,
actually, the work isn't even the hard part. The hard part is the commitment.
But the commitment is work.
The actual work is usually pretty darn easy.
Yeah. But it's keeping it up consistently, right?
Yeah. Well, also people equate work and effort with stress. So once they hear those two words, they're like, oh, you know what? Nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'll say I did it, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's why I don't do 30-day programs very often. In fact, I've only done them once or twice successfully, with great success. But on those occasions where I did do it successfully, I decided I was only going to do it if I was willing to at least do 5 seconds of it each day.
Okay.
Not that 5 seconds is enough to really do whatever it is you're trying to do, but it creates the habit. Because that's what I really wanted was the habit. The example that comes to my mind is where I did the mirror work. I committed to doing the mirror work for 30 days and I ended up doing it for a few months. And the first day I was like 5 seconds because that's all I could stand looking at myself in the mirror. And the second day was 10 seconds. But it kept expanding each day. I kept stretching out the time frame just because I was allowing myself to be in front of the mirror every day. When I developed that habit, it became easier and easier. So the work actually became very, very easy. All I had to do was just stick to that commitment of, even if it's just for a few seconds, I'm just going to do it every single day for 30 days. And sure enough, by God, after 30 days, I actually had a change. And it was a big one. All the chatter in my head went away. It's like, whoa, I like this one. It's good stuff,
Yeah.
When that chatter goes away. So the 30-day programs can be very effective. I think the key to getting through them is just do a little bit every day. I mean, if Dan puts up a video as part of the package that you bought from Daniel, well, okay, maybe you can't listen to the whole thing. Listen to the first 10 seconds. At least you started. And then you listen for the next 10 seconds. And then do the next 10 seques. And maybe next time you'll do 20 seconds until finally you get through the first video. And then it's the second video. And then the third. Because now you got a habit going. I've been seeing this with the Pivot Pal groups that we set up on Facebook. Many of our listeners have become members of the group. And I've been encouraging people, okay, you post your little vignettes about what it is that you're trying to attract into your life. And they were posting some good vignettes and so forth. Now, keep after it every day. Well, right now, I'm the only one who's going after my vignette every day. Everybody else is kind of going
I notice.
Because it's the commitment to that daily consistency that is the biggest challenge of all. And it's not a difficult thing to do. It's just, okay, I got to do it. I just got to do that, minute or that half minute or 3 minutes or whatever it is every day. Because the every day is what makes it work. So, just saying. No guilt. I'm not trying to guilt anybody. I'm just using that as
But if you are feeling guilty, then perhaps
if the shoe fits.
Then pivot, y'all.
No,
I think
no, no guilt. This is not about guilt. This is about whether or not you really want to make the change. It's up to
Right.
you. I mean,
Hmm.
if you don't want to make the change, okay, no big deal. I just gave you a tool to do it, and you can use the tool or not. You can throw the tool in the wastebasket for all I care. The question is, what do you care as the person who's committed or not committed, as the person who wants to make the change? That's the only thing that matters. Guilt doesn't have anything to do with it, I don't think.
I think a real cool hack that I'd love to give the listeners that will support them in building that consistency and momentum is a combination of minimum deliverables, like you said, that 5 seconds to just like have a real minimum deliverable, and working with the flow of your archetypes. So, for example, Gretchen Rubin in her book The Four Tendencies talks about how we deal with inner and outer expectation based on our grouping. So, if you're a rebel like me, you're always going to rebel against inner and against outer expectation. So, you need to frame, or you will be served by framing your approach to building that minimum deliverable based on that. If you're an obliger, that means you respond to outside expectation. Get an accountability partner.
Hmm.
An accountability partner that will truly hold you accountable. If you're an upholder, you're going to do it anyway. You're going to do it. But as a question, I just understand why you're doing it and have a real solid why that you've connected to cognitively, and then set that minimum deliverable, and you will win. When you understand how you operate in flow, and then from that space of flow, set a minimum deliverable that you know you can achieve. Give yourself a period of time to do it first. 7 days. For the next 7 days, I'm going to do 5 seconds a day at least. Get there, celebrate it, anchor in the win, and then say for the next 7 days, I'm going to do 10 seconds.
There you go.
Anchor it, celebrate the win. Then for the next 7 days, you do 15 seconds.
Hmm.
Always minimal. Never a big leap. Because the big leap will happen as a quantum leap as you build up the momentum through those micro shifts.
Hmm.
One of the reasons why micro shifting works so well, it's one of the underlying principles, operating in flow in baby steps, asking yourself, what is something that I know I can do? I know I can do 5 seconds a day. How do I need to be held accountable? I can hold myself accountable. Cool. I need an outside accountability. Cool. I'm a rebel. Make it fun. Like, give yourself leverage. Just work with flow and minimum deliverables, and you will be able to build that momentum and start getting in the right direction.
And tying it back to our original topic, which was bringing stuff in, soul contracts and so forth from the past, and that led us to talking about the now. This actually becomes a great way to leverage now, because now if I think about a 30-day program as, oh God, I have to do this for the next 30 days or the next 5 days, that can wipe me out. But if all I have to think about is, I just have to do it right now, then I can do it. Because now I don't have all those expectations that I've placed on my shoulders. It makes it too heavy to carry the load. All I have to deal with, well, I can do it now. I can do that. You know, that's not too difficult. And then just keep coming back to now. Okay, well, I can do it now, actually. And yeah, I did it the previous now, but now I'm doing it this now. And now I'm doing it this now. And I'm doing it this now again. And here's another now, you know? That's the whole, that's all you have to commit to is the next now. You don't have to commit to the 30th or the 15th, just the next one. And then this one right now. And the next one comes after you're done with this one. Okay, I just did this one. Okay, then I'll do the next one. I may not do any other stuff after that one, but I'll do the next one. Now it becomes really deliverables. Heck, deliverables, schmiverables. I mean, they don't make any difference. All I have to do is just now and the next one.
Right.
Get the momentum going. Use your natural space of flow to get the momentum going, and then let it take its course. Our minds are set up to be habitual pattern following machines. It's just that we haven't set that pattern to be aligned with what we've consciously chosen. Or the payoff of not taking that path is not as high as the payoff is higher than the payoff of taking it. So the mind, which is always looking for maximum utility, greatest pleasure and least pain, will be going for that. But the thing is that we think that good emotions are always where the maximum utility is. No, it's wherever the mind's used to having a pattern of behavior. That's why people chase toxic relationships. That's why people still stick with addictions that damage and destroy their body, because the brain gets tricked into thinking this is what I need. You know, so anyway.
Actual factuals, man.
It's interesting how often we can allow ourselves to be tricked into stuff that we don't like too. Because even that, being tricked is still a choice.
Yeah.
It's not like we had no choice about being tricked. Like, okay, I volunteered. Yeah, I got it.
At some level of consciousness, at least.
Well, always, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a question of noticing where it is. I just keep coming back to this whole idea of making the repetition easy. Because repetition is big. There was one time that I actually heard a talk by one of the people quoted in The Secret, W. Clement Stone, who was a teacher to Jack Canfield, among others. I heard a Clement Stone talk when he was 99 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I spoke before a large audience, and his topic was repetition. A word, by the way, which he repeated over and over again throughout the presentation. Repetition, repetition, repetition. I can hear it now in my head. Repetition, 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 repetition. And if you know anything about what W. Clement Stone was like, he was this. He was nerdy. Let's be perfectly blunt. He was a bow tie wearer. He had slicked back hair. I mean, he was the kind of person who, if he wasn't famous, you would have done everything you could to just stay away from because he just looked. Ugh. But he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. He was right on. That repetition makes all the difference in the world. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to repeat in the future. That's the key. You don't have to repeat in the future. You only have to repeat now. Mm-hmm. That's where the power of now comes in. Mm. The only repetition is the one that you're doing right now. None of the rest of them matter. Nor do the ones matter that you did before, although they certainly help. That they help build up your current momentum. By the way, another fear that I had about 30-day programs, that finishing a 30-day program, or actually it turned out to be more than 30 days, proved to be really helpful to kind of alleviating the fear, was the fear that I wouldn't know when to stop. Interesting thing happened. I stopped when it came natural to stop. I didn't have to think about it. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to plan it. It's just, okay, I think I've gotten everything I need out of it. I'm done. I stopped. Mm-hmm. No guilt. Got where I wanted to go. Great. What's next? That was it.
Nice and complete.
Yeah. Yeah. It was complete all by itself.
And that's sovereignty in action, right? That's,
it really is.
Knowing that's not being a slave to a program. Not I have to do this. I have to do this. No. I'm having sovereignty and agency that, I feel good from a space of integrity and genuinely expansively feeling good. I'm ready to end this now. Tres bueno.
Yeah. Very, very good. That's what that is. It's very good when you reach that point. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, we started with the soul contracts. We end up in the now, and then we started dancing around a lot in the now, which I think you kind of have to do anyway. But how does this all inform? Have we shifted or expanded or in some ways clarified our views of soul contracts through this conversation, or have we completely lost the track?
No, I think we've all three of us in this triangle, have voiced our opinions and what we believe.
Okay. Do you feel like do either of you feel like you've gotten more clarity out of it? I mean, I'll tell you, I think I got some clarity. I got clarity just because as I was describing to you this idea of I don't have to repeat in the future. I just have to repeat right now and maybe tomorrow. Yeah. I didn't pre-plan that one. That was not one I'd used before,
Right.
That just came out of this.
Was that a new experience, Mr. Walt? Was that a new
experience? It was. Yes. I had never put it together quite that precisely. So that's why I asked if you guys had anything that came out of it.
I think I've opened up a bit more to looking for the positives that I may have desired to experience. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually gonna stick with that. You've inspired me, Miss Unicorn.
Oh, thank you. I try.
Don't try, Mama. You do it.
Facts.
Was there anything else that you got out of it, Alex, that you wanted to tell people about before we go into promos?
No, I felt like what I was saying, Daniel's just elaborated on it better than I could. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, you always do it better than anybody could. But
oh, you guys today, stop.
Not today. Now.
Keep going,
now.
But
stop. Don't stop. So
I'll take it all.
Just want to remind you folks that you get 5 episodes a week. Well, when we do 5 episodes a week, sometimes we have co-hosts who get sick. We can't do anything. But on the days where we do shows, which is 5 days a week, you always get those coming streaming to your device every single time we publish them because you're subscribed. You are subscribed, right? Well, most of you are subscribed. Some of you have been kind of sitting in that position of saying, well, I haven't been told I could do it yet. So we're going to tell you can do it. We are going to give you permission to be a free subscriber to the podcast. And it's so simple to do. Just go to the homepage of our website, loatoday.net, and at the top of the page, you will see instructions on how to do it in how many clicks, Dan? 1 click? Is that what it was?
Just the one this year.
Just the one. It doesn't get simpler than 1 click. That's as simple as it gets. It's not like George Jetson, who had a terrible day because he had to push 3 buttons during the day.
Oh God, the worst! 3 whole buttons. Oh my God.
But please be sure to become a subscriber and join the thousands who are becoming subscribers and listening to every single podcast, because you get to listen to a very positive program that helps expand your understanding a little bit. Maybe helps you become a better conscious creator. And you can also watch us as we're live streaming this, because when we record, we live stream it to YouTube. Alex, tell our audience how they can become a subscriber on YouTube.
Okay. Well, what you want to do is go to YouTube and search for LOA Today podcast videos. And once you've done that, look for our smiling faces, and then go down below, hit the red subscribe button. Next to the red subscribe button, there is a silver bell. Click that silver bell. Make sure it says all, so you will always be notified when we're live.
Meanwhile, Daniel's doing his Vanna White in the background there.
I'm muted, so there's no way that nobody was going to see. I'm muted. I was like, this is going to be an accidental.
Yeah.
Right, it's like the secret co-host dog.
The secret co-host.
Secret co-host. I like it.
But it's the one that I'm doing now, anyway. Actually.
So Daniel, do you want to is there anything you want to tell people about, any programs you got coming up that people might want to know about?
Ooh, we had the class last week, which was great. Ran a lot longer than it was supposed to. It was like 90 minutes. Yeah, 2.5 hours later.
Ooh, nice.
But it was, I actually, interestingly, I normally freestyle. I get the outline and I get my rough. It's generally going to be beyond intention, flow funnel. But I was really inspired to take copious notes before, so I followed a bit of a script. So based on the feedback and how it really has changed a couple of people's lives, I'm going to probably do that one again real soon. So I'll keep you guys posted on that.
Okay.
It was a really, really powerful class. People are already on the road to getting some freedom and seeing people starting getting opportunities that day from the shift. Anyway,
so that's about it. When you get that kind of response where people are getting instant return on their attempts to make changes and so forth, that's when first of all, you've helped them break through some pretty strong resistances they got in the way. That's huge, because anytime you can break through those resistances, you are a winner. Well, first of all, you're a winner always, but you're now really a winner.
I'm going to be keeping this one completely free as well. I'm going to keep it as a free class. Cool. It was a class from one of my programs that I invited people from my private Facebook group to join, but I think I'm really feeling like it will be a great piece of service to people. So I'm going to throw it out there again. So creating financial freedom in 3 months.
So is that something that they need to hook into something in order to be aware when it's coming out or something?
Join my Facebook group. I do stuff on there. I'm probably going to do another 5-day challenge going into the beginning of the new year, although I'm going to be in Dubai, so I don't know how likely that's going to be. I'm definitely doing a 5-day masterclass at the end of Jan, which will be free as well. Just go to dreamwithdan.com/Facebook, and it will hook you into my Facebook group. It's completely free. And yeah, it's not like spammy or anything like that. It's just, there's always exclusive content on a Wednesday. I put out, whether it's a clip from a retreat or a workshop or something fun, or like a free coaching call or stuff like that. I do some cool stuff in there anyway. And it's, again, it's completely free.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for an interesting topic, Alex. I mean, I have to say, when you first sent it to me, I wondered how far we're going to go with this. I should have known better. We always take it right through to full 60 minutes. I'm never sure how we're going to do it, but we do. So congratulations on such a great topic. Daniel, as usual, thank you for the insights. Your insights are absolutely spectacular. as
Thank you
is
for
your
your
dancing. Your
suggestion,
dancing
yeah.
is wonderful. People just don't see enough of that.
They will never see it. There must be a co-host to see it. If you want to see the dancing, you have to be a co-host. Is the link?
Ah, okay, there you go.
Mm,
Okay, so
there's the rub.
there's a little incentive there for somebody who wants to be a future co-host, and he's starting to dance right now. Thank you, Steve, on the live stream, and everybody else on the live stream. Thank you to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody. Oh, come on. Hit the right button.